Hi everyone, Derived Energy here, and today I'll be reading out some comments that were made by New York Times readers in response to Peter Singer's presentation of Benatar's arguments, and I did a video on that, so please watch that if you want to. Okay, and we got lots of comments here, so I'll read through them and then and give my input. Someone writes, Buddhists have believed for thousands of years that desire is the source of our suffering, which certainly encompasses Schopenhauer's view that even the best life possible for humans is one in which we strive for ends that once achieved bring only fleeting satisfaction. Not sure how the author can suggest that Schopenhauer's pessimism has had few defenders over the past 2 centuries. And yeah, this is a fair point. Buddhism recognizes that life is suffering, and over the years they've had millions upon millions of followers, so obviously the notion that life is suffering resonates with these people who follow Buddhism. But Buddhism is optimistic in that there are the third and fourth noble truths which hint at a possible path of salvation, but that's Pollyannism. I think they should have just stopped at life is suffering. Dum. Right. Someone writes, the content of this article offers a compelling argument for not having children. As someone that has been fortunate enough to travel the world, it has been difficult to see the struggle of children in extreme poverty, often left alone while their parents farm or fish or beg on the streets. You question why these people would bring children into a world of despair. Yeah, and this illustrates, how determined people are to have children, even, when they know they're bringing them into a life of poverty and hardship, they'll still bring them into existence. It's like they've got such a biological urge to do it that it just defeats any kind of rational reasoning and anticipation of how their own child's life will pan out. Someone says, if a child is likely to have a life full of pain and suffering, is that a reason against bringing the child into existence? And this person says, yes, I think we have a moral obligation to reduce or prevent suffering. If a child is likely to have a happy, healthy life, is that a reason for bringing the child into existence? And the person writes, no. So he's recognised the asymmetry. He's saying that, we have a moral duty, a moral obligation to prevent suffering, but so we have a moral obligation not to have any children if it's likely that they will suffer, but he says there's no obligation to bring children into existence for their own sake to appreciate pleasure. So he's recognising the asymmetry, yet he still says, he answers the question, is a world with people in it better than a world with no sentient beings at all? He says, no, it's a different world, but not a better world. Now how did he get from answering those previous 2 questions to his conclusion that a world in which there is no people in it is no better than a world with people in it? I just don't understand this. Some supercilious Wally writes, in the event you were not advised, this is a column dedicated to philosophical matters. Therefore, those who partake tend to be in favour of sentient beings. The lives they lead. Okay, so you've got to be in favour of all the lives that people lead. The things they do. You have to be in favour of all the things that people do, and the ideas they entertain. So you've got to be in favour of all the ideas that people entertain, including Nazism. Yours is a misanthropy of apocalyptic proportions, seeing all that people do only horrific and self-destructive things. No, it's not. It's not just that it's not that all people do horrific and self-destructive things. It's that some people do horrific and self-destructive things, and this creates an incredible amount of pain and suffering for innocent people. which is why your solution to the problem of our species is to collectively go quietly into that good night, a kinder, gentler holocaust, so that the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees need tremble no more at the thunder of our murdering selves. Now, I don't really think birds and bees and flowers and trees need to worry, but the animals that we breed just so we can eat them, I think those animals do need to tremble at the thunder of our murdering selves. In my judgment, you believe life is worth living only for those folk who share a contempt and a hatred for much of humanity, and that if it were in your power to make those offending folks vanish from the earth, lovingly of course, nothing violent and nothing personal, you would do so mercilessly as Ted Kaczynski did, and with as little remorse. But what do I know? I'm merely a sentient being. Now this is a common tactic I've encountered. Some people, when you explain antinatalism to them, they try to undermine your arguments by just bringing down all sentient beings' ability to reason rationally and logically about the human condition, and it's kind of a tactic they use to undermine antinatalism. You know, they're saying, well, we're all sentient beings, we're all flawed and illogical and irrational, so therefore we can't know anything worthwhile about, you know, the human condition and the fact that people experience pain, suffering and death. It's a disingenuous tactic. Cordially Sal Anthony. This guy is an arsehole. Here we go. I am so glad that I never had children. I never felt the need to replicate myself. What's the point if there are already millions of adoptable children already on the planet? Yeah, exactly. There's lots of children that need to be adopted. There is enough strife on earth as it is, and I am happy that there are no direct descendants of myself to have to subject them to insane turmoil of worldwide greed, argue with that, worldwide greed, famine, and endless wars of destruction. Yeah, endless wars of destruction. Just look in a history book. When I die, I will be totally guilt-free. What a decent guy. Recommended by 148 readers. I'm not alone. There are some reasonable, rational, compassionate people out there. 148 readers. It's nice to read that statistic, because on YouTube it sometimes only feels like there's, well, regularly 30 or 40 people that thumb up in Mendham's videos. So, yeah, it's gratifying to know that we're not alone. I think knowingly bringing a child into a life of misery is a terrible act of cruelty, and we have proven ourselves over the millennia to be anything if not cruel. How misery is defined, though, differs from one person to the next, so to pin that down would be impossible. One person's misery may be another person's bliss. One person's misery may be another person's bliss. I mean, to a very limited extent, but you know, who likes slowly dying of cancer? Is that somebody's idea of bliss? I mean, people who just say these things really aren't trying to think about the issues in an intellectually honest manner, or with any depth of rumination on the subject. Someone says, to bring into existence someone who will suffer is, Benatar argues, to harm that person, but to bring into existence someone who will have a good life is not to benefit him or her. Simply and apparently obviously wrong. So, yeah, the bold assertion without any argumentation. Oh, here we go. I worry that only those in the West in this age would dare to even ask such a disturbing question. How dare you? This beautiful world is meant to be shared, appreciated, loved, cared for, and marvelled at. Like the rape of the natural world itself, to not pass life on is hardly value neutral. It is an act of selfishness. It is an act of selfishness. How is that an act of selfishness, not having children? You know, it's a sacrifice if you really want children, and then you decide not to have any children due to the arguments in relating to antinatalism, then that's self-sacrifice. That's not selfish. It's people who create miniature versions of themselves to gratify their own egos. They're the people who are selfish. honestly, some people... Here we go. Dr. Singer, although you don't close the door to other perspectives, I find it interesting that for the most part you constrain yourself to considerations of suffering and happiness in estimating the value of life. An average person will of course prefer a life of joy to one of misery, but it seems like there is something missing if people will of course prefer a life of joy to one of misery, but it seems like there is something missing, sorry, repeated myself, if happiness is the only metric by which we consider whether life is worth living. Well, consider whether life's worth starting by any metric. It's whatever the metric is. You're not going to be deprived of it if you don't come into existence. So whether it's meaning, or appreciation of art, or social status, or leaving a name for yourself in the history books, you're not going to be deprived of any of those things. So happiness is just a shorthand for all the experiences we have that people traditionally regard as a reason to bring somebody into existence, or experiences that confer an experience over non-existence, sentience. Let's have another look. Yes, people must stop having children now. Life is completely pointless. Well, it's a bold assertion without any argumentation, but if there is a point to all this, if there is a meaning to life, to the universe and everything, it's not exactly making itself very apparent, because I'm feeling that I'm in a universe that doesn't have an ultimate meaning. We're just bacteria replicating DNA molecules. The universe is not dependent on us in any way. It's not crying because I or any other antinatalist doesn't have any children. I'm going to wrap that up anyway. That's a nice short video.